Hello, and thank you for your interest in this video series. This video series demonstrates one of the many possibilities of the types of games that can be developed using the Scratch platform. In this series, a remake of the classic 1978 Space Invaders arcade game is demonstrated. The Scratch platform was designed with beginning programmers in mind, although the platform itself can be used to create games ranging in complexity. While games that run on modern gaming systems such as Xbox, PS4, and PCs far exceed the capabilities of Scratch, many of the fundamental concepts on which these games are built can be explored and implemented using Scratch. Scratch allows advanced fundamentals to be implemented and studied without having an in-depth knowledge of operating systems and tools otherwise required before anything at all can be displayed on screen. Many of the basic elements and gameplay from the original arcade game were captured using resources available on the internet. Being as though the full set of technical specifications for the original arcade game was not available, some assumptions and guesses were made in order to fill the gaps and complete the game. Most of the subtle differences between this version under Scratch and the original arcade game can easily be implemented. In this introductory video, the prologue through the game attract screens are demonstrated. Other videos in this series demonstrate the gameplay for each of the 5 supported levels of difficulty. The last video in this series demonstrates features of the 2-player game mode. Before we begin, it is worth noting that this version of Space Invaders being demonstrated was written to operate under native mode. That is to say, this version does not require turbo mode to operate smoothly. In fact, due to the nature of the design, running in turbo mode introduces issues that do not otherwise occur under normal mode. This version of Space Invaders includes a prologue that serves as a storyline introducing the premise of the game as well as the role of the player. The demonstration will now begin. As night transitions into day, the first sequence of the attract screens is displayed. Space Invaders was the first game of its kind and the first to introduce attract screens. Attract screens are a form of advertising used in order to attract would-be passers-by to stop and take a look. The attract screen sequences included a short demonstration of the game. The gameplay demonstration captured the attention of millions by reflecting the excitement and challenge of the game. As a result, countless coins from the pockets of millions of gamers were also captured. The game grossed well over $2 billion by 1982. Attract screens are now standard across every arcade game throughout the industry. It is not until after the first cycle of the attract screens completes that the player is instructed how to begin the game. This method helps to ensure that the first-time player takes the opportunity to understand the basics of the game before playing. The player is presented with a message to press the C key, which simulates inserting a coin into the arcade machine. By pressing the C key, 1 credit is added, which is required in order to play a game. The C key can be pressed at any time during the attract sequence and at any time during gameplay, just like the real arcade machine. The number of credits determines the number of plays allowed before more credits are required. The 2-player game, which is demonstrated in another video, requires a minimum of 2 credits. Now that 1 credit has been added, the 1 key can be pressed to start the game. Note that only the 1-player game can be selected when there is only 1 credit. Once the 1-player game has been selected, the player is prompted to select a difficulty level. Difficulty level selection is not a part of the arcade game, but was added to this version of Space Invaders in order to provide the appropriate level of challenge for players of differing skill levels as well as for players that have special needs. This game supports 5 levels of difficulty. Each difficulty level has a different set of characteristics, making various aspects of the game easier or more difficult. The difficulty levels can be selected by either using a letter or a number as seen here on the screen. By selecting the difficulty level using the letter, the difficulty level will remain in effect for the duration of 1 game only. By selecting the difficulty level using the number, the difficulty level will be used for all games played within the same scratch session. In this case, the player will not be prompted again to select the difficulty level for the duration of the scratch session. Once the player has selected the difficulty level, a short instruction screen is displayed. The player is presented with the basic rules of the game as well as the controls used to operate the ship. Pressing any key will begin the game. Other videos in this series demonstrate the gameplay for each of the supported levels of difficulty as well as the 2-player game. This concludes the demonstration covering the introduction and prologue of the 1978 classic Space Invaders arcade game developed for the Scratch platform. Thank you for your interest in this video series, and good luck with your Scratch projects.